There is a feeling some people carry everywhere they go. It's quiet, persistent, and exhausting. It's the feeling that their presence is an imposition, that their needs are too much, that asking for anything, help, time, attention, is unfair to whoever has to give it. They apologize for texting, they feel guilty for needing a ride. They won't ask for help even when they're drowning because they don't want to be a burden. And when someone does help them, they can't enjoy it. They just feel worse, more guilty, more in debt. Maybe you know this feeling. Maybe you've spent your whole life trying to need as little as possible, trying to be so low maintenance that people forget you have needs at all. Because somewhere along the way, you learned that needing something made you a problem. And if that's you, this video will explain why. Because feeling like a burden isn't humility, it's a wound that never healed.
So, where does this come from? Why do some people believe their existence is a burden? It starts with a child who learned that their needs were inconvenient. Maybe they had parents who were always stressed, always overwhelmed. And every time the child asked for something, attention, comfort, help, they saw exhaustion in their parents' face, a sigh, an irritated tone. Can't you see I'm busy? So the child learned, my needs make things harder. I am the problem. If I need less, things will be easier for everyone. Or maybe they grew up watching a parent sacrifice endlessly for them, but with visible resentment. The parent would help, but they'd complain about it. They'd do things for the child, but the child could feel the weight of obligation. The unspoken message, look what I have to do for you. Look how much you cost me. So the child learned receiving help means putting someone out. Being cared for is taking something that doesn't belong to me. I'm a debt that can never be repaid. Or maybe they had a sibling who needed more, who was sick or troubled or demanding. And this child learned to be invisible, to not add to the burden, to solve their own problems so their parents had one less thing to worry about. And it worked. They became the easy child. But easy became invisible. And invisible became you don't matter enough to be a burden.
Here's how it shows up in adulthood. Pattern 1. Over-apologizing for existing. They say sorry before asking anything. Sorry to bother you. Sorry if this is inconvenient. Sorry for needing something. They apologize for taking up space, time, attention, as if their presence requires constant permission. Pattern 2. Cannot ask for help. Even in emergencies. Even when they desperately need it. Because asking feels like imposing, like forcing someone to do something they don't want to do. So they suffer alone. They struggle quietly. They'd rather fail than burden someone with their problems. Pattern 3. Excessive gratitude. When someone does help them, they can't stop thanking them. Not because they're genuinely grateful, though they are, but because they feel like they owe something, like they've extracted a cost from this person that needs to be repaid. Help doesn't feel like kindness, it feels like debt. Pattern 4. Preemptive rejection. They don't even let themselves need things. They've trained themselves to want nothing, to need no one. Because if you don't need anything, you can't be a burden. If you're completely self-sufficient, nobody has to be inconvenienced by your existence. But that's not strength. That's emotional starvation. And here's what this does to a person over time. It isolates them. Because when you never ask for anything, never need anything, never let anyone help you, people stop offering. Not because they don't care, but because you've trained them that you don't need care. You become an island, self-sufficient on the surface, desperately lonely underneath. It creates one-sided relationships. They show up for everyone else. They're the first to help, to listen, to be there. But when they need something, silence. And they think it's because they don't matter. But really, nobody knows they need anything. They've become so good at not being a burden that people forgot they're human. It makes receiving love impossible. When someone tries to care for them, they can't accept it. It feels wrong, uncomfortable, unearned. So they deflect it, minimize it, push it away. And the person trying to love them feels rejected, confused. Eventually, they stop trying. And the person who feels like a burden ends up proving themselves right. They are alone. And here's the cruelest irony. The people who worry most about being a burden are usually the ones carrying everyone else. They're the ones giving endlessly, supporting everyone, being there for everyone, while believing that asking for the same in return would be too much.
So when someone constantly feels like a burden, what are they really saying? They're saying, I learned that my needs are too much, that wanting help is selfish, that being cared for costs someone something they shouldn't have to pay. They're saying, I was taught that love is conditional, that people help me not because they want to, but because they have to. And if I don't need help, I don't have to test whether they'd choose to give it. They're saying, someone made me feel like my existence was expensive. And I've spent my whole life trying to cost less, to need less, to be less. But here's the truth they never learned. Needing people isn't a burden, it's human. Asking for help isn't imposing, it's connection. And letting someone care for you, that's not taking something from them. That's giving them the gift of mattering to you. When you refuse to ever need anything, you're not being considerate. You're denying people the chance to love you. Because love isn't just giving. It's allowing yourself to receive. And when you never receive, you're saying, you can care about me, but you can't actually care for me. And that's lonely for everyone.
So if you're someone who feels like a burden, if you apologize for existing, if you can't ask for help, if you'd rather suffer alone than inconvenience someone, I need you to hear this. You are not a burden. You never were. The people who made you feel that way, they were wrong. The environment that taught you that your needs were too much, it was broken, not you. You're allowed to need things. You're allowed to ask for help. You're allowed to let people care for you without feeling like you owe them something that can never be repaid. This doesn't mean becoming demanding or entitled. It means understanding that connection is reciprocal, that letting someone help you isn't taking from them, it's giving them the chance to matter. That relationships aren't about being low maintenance, they're about being real. The child who learned to cost nothing learned to survive, but you're not that child anymore. You don't have to prove you're not a burden by disappearing. You don't have to earn your right to be cared for by never needing care. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to have needs. You're allowed to ask. And when someone says yes, you're allowed to just let them, without guilt, without debt, without proving it wasn't that big a deal anyway. You were never the burden. You were just surrounded by people who made you feel like you were.
And that says everything about them and nothing about your worth. The child who learned to cost nothing deserves to finally understand you're not expensive. You're not too much. You're not an imposition. You're a person, and people are allowed to need other people. That's not a flaw. That's being human.